You know, this idea that we allow these superficial manifestations of our grace and our goodness, be it the pigment of our skin or the texture of our hair, or our culture that we're given the gift of having, we allow those dynamics to dictate the quality of opportunity for life that we have. It's just an absurd stop along our journey of evolution, I believe, as a human species.
Aloha mai kākou e nā hoa maka maka mai ka lahiki a ka lākau. Veli na nui beki aloha.
Aloha.
Mahalo nui a oe ka vehi. O wau no Kaiwipunikauikawēkiu he kamanalili ka lā ka me ele hiva lau o James Michael Anthony. Ua hanau a hanai ia ma ka au ko o lau nei mokupuni. E lua u keiki o haena lau o lamakua Kawehionālani. Aloha mai kākou.
Aloha.
My name is Kaiwipunikauikawēkiu. You can call me Punihe. And I'd like to welcome you on behalf of our team to the final day of our 2024 Hawaiʻi Kuʻu Aloha Summit. I was just telling Kekuhi, like, who let me do this crazy thing of bringing people together for 3 days to talk about Hawaiʻi, our beloved home? And so I want to say thank you to my team for allowing me to dream and allowing us to dream together, because the stakes are high and the work is real. And it is time to continue to dream and to be hopeful and to have courage, like my good friend Chip Fletcher always says. So Hawaiʻi Kuʻu Aloha is a time for us to come together to discuss and think about our beloved home. I don't care what color your skin is or where you come from. If you're here for one day visiting or you're here for the rest of your life, this place somehow calls us to feel like we are home. And my two friends who are visiting from Durango, Colorado and San Francisco, California reminded me of that this week when they came for the first time. And so on day one, we looked to our past, to the ways that we have experienced Hawaiʻi over time, the different communities who have lived here, what makes it difficult, what makes it beautiful in our history here in Hawaiʻi together, what is unique, but also what is common. Yesterday on day two, we practiced presence. We got present with ourselves, with each other, and with Aina. And today we invite you here to dream, to envision the future that you want for your children and grandchildren, to envision the future where we no longer have racism, sexism, settler colonialism, capitalism, ageism, ableism, and more. Is it difficult to imagine those futures? Yes. When we might not have experienced it in our own lifetimes, in our grandparents' lifetimes, even maybe in our great-grandparents' lifetimes. But the good news is, my friends, that it's inside of us. It might be sleeping. Maybe we need to be awoken to those memories. But as one of my Kumu Mainet Benham reminds us, it is in our blood memory. Each of us have mo'oku auhau that remind us, that are in us, that teach us what it was like at one time or another to practice true aloha, even if that's not the word that you use in your homeland. And so how do we call those memories back, right? we have to tell stories. We have to imagine together. And we have to have the courage to take those steps towards those imagined futures. And so tonight we are going to invite 4 people. I know you came thinking about 2, but actually 4 people to the stage to sit with us for a little while. I know we're so excited. The first 2 people I'm going to introduce to you are actually our graduate students. 2 of our team members, of our graduate research assistants, they're actually 2 of the babies of our team because it's their future. It's their children and grandchildren. And so we would like to invite them to be in conversation with the 2 keynotes that you probably came to listen to tonight. And then hopefully together we can imagine what it's like to be in conversation, to actually take steps to be in conversation with our children and our grandchildren, and to make space to make sure that they are being heard. So first I would like to introduce, hailing from Kamakani, a really sweet, soft-spoken, intellectual poet, critical analyzer, lover of so many different kinds of beautiful arts and crafts. Come onto the stage, a son, a friend, a grandson, and a PhD student in the Indigenous Politics program. Kamakani, Albano. You have fans tonight, Kamakani. Our other graduate research assistant hails from Mokuʻu. She is a poʻe Hula, of course. Her moʻokuʻoho is undeniable. But she's also like a planner, a researcher, hungry all the time for more to read, punihe, more mo'olelos to go find, more things to prepare for. She's quiet, she's an observer, but when she speaks, everybody listens. Let me introduce to you our very own, I should also say, yes, her mom is one of the keynotes tonight. When we have these relationships, hi mom, like when you're Lilikala's daughter or your Kekuhi's daughter, these things happen. And they're, of course, so meant to be. So we'd like to introduce another PhD student in Indigenous politics, our very own Kekuhi, Kanahele. So our 2 keynote speakers tonight. I'm actually kind of really scared of both of them. Reverend, scared, right? They're just like right there. They're both important. My mom would say yes. I've known her, I think, my whole life, right, Mom? Of course, our mothers are really good friends. And last year, I watched her, our whole team saw her speak at an event, and she talked about a bunch of amazing things. But she talked about the space between us as not being empty space, but the space that connects us. And I was like, wait, that's the thing we all trying to talk about and teach. But she says it way better, of course. You know all her accolades, but I just really when I'm around her, just want to do this, hi. And she's one of the nicest, most humble, make you feel like you just right there with her, tell you any story kind of person, and you'll see that tonight. Kumu Hula, Kekuhi, Kanahele. And last but not least, it's funny, I had my notes, but they're all gone, so I can actually just walk out. Last but not least, I met this lady in 2017. I met her work before that when she asked us the question, what is the community that you envision when racism has been jettisoned? And maybe I wasn't paying attention before, sorry, Kumus. But I felt like that was the first time I was invited to not only think about the problem, but to think about what I wanted instead. That was a really powerful moment for me. She's also a little scary. just because she's like, we call her the grandmother of our truth, racial healing, and transformation work. She is a visionary, she is kind, she is energetic, she is passionate, and I was telling her this morning or this afternoon that retirement is a swear word in my house with my mom. And she said, I agree. So, without further ado, Dr. Gail Christopher. And as she walks in, this is Nicole, who's kind of like her kiaʻi, and we'd like to mahalo Nicole for flying all the way here. I'm sure she was like, oh man, I gotta come to Hawaii from the East Coast to take care of Dr. Christopher. So mahalo, Nicole. And since we're talking about our grandchildren, to make sure that we're all paying attention, to make sure that we're all focused on that, because that's really what we're here about, we'd like to invite some special guests onto stage to really hone in on the babies, on the future that's not too far away, but also to help welcome our guests here tonight. Ina keikioka Pūnana Leo o Mānoa, e komo mai.
Pūnana Leo o Mānoa, pipi oa e ke anue nue, o ili mai la kahala o puna, mai ka apa kahua ka wailele, ka hua hia ho ia ka nevai, ka mo ili a ka mokula e, ua ho i ke au Mānoa.
right, Kekuhi,
Yeah.
you can take it away.
Wow. Yeah, excuse me, just real quick. Yeah, mahalo ina kikio ka aha Pūnana Leo o Mānoa. You know, sometimes I take for granted what I was raised with and being able to sing those kinds of songs. So it was really nice to see tonight. So mahalo. Mahalo ina Kumu. Mahalo to the makua, to the grandparents who fought for the aha Pūnana Leo, who fought for immersion schools and language to be taught. Mahalo nui. Bruh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have kids, I guess, yeah. My ka'i. It is my privilege. Oh, aloha again. I'm Kekuhi, Kanahele. I'm the other one on stage tonight. This is, you know. So I have the privilege of talking to these beautiful women right here, to Dr. Christopher, to Kekuhi, Kealiʻikanakaʻoleohaililani, alongside with Kamakani. And we have the privilege of co-facilitating this amazing, once-in-a-lifetime kind of keynote. And I think for the format of tonight's keynote, we're gonna really follow these women's lead, and we're gonna talk about the intention of why we're here tonight, and the intention of this keynote, which is really to talk about our grandchildren, to talk about children such as those who attend Ka'aha Pūnana Leo. And of course, we need grandparents to do that kind of conversation here, and so we're just really privileged to be here, and mahalo for attending tonight. Mahalo nui. Kamakani, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Yeah, mahalo. With these intentions in mind, it's always important that we recognize and look towards the places and our connections to those places that shape our past, present, and futures. So, of course, we would like to uplift ko Hawaiʻi Pai'aina, the sacred lands of the entire Hawaiian archipelago, honoring her as our grandmother Earth, as well as the indigenous wisdom of Kanaka Maoli, the native peoples of this Aina and grandchildren of the grandmother Earth, and just thinking about the ways that they continue to teach us how to be in caring reciprocity with one another and our grandmother Earth in our conversations today. And also in the space that we're gathered here today as well, we are in Kennedy Theater, and it's also important that we think about the space that we're all in today. So Kennedy Theater is also located at a triangulation of 3 ili'aina, or small land sections. And the names of those ili'aina are Kawala'a, Wailele, and Va'ahila. So we want to mahalo these aina and the names for allowing us to be in community with each other today, and in the conversations that we will be today. And yeah, so in light of starting this keynote by diving into the vision that we have of the futures we have for our grandchildren, we'd like to ask the both of you to share those visions of those futures, and we'd like to ask you to do that by sharing a story. And sharing a story that inspires that vision and how you articulate it. So we'll start with you, Dr. Christopher. We'd like to ask you to please share a story of a time with your grandchildren that has shaped and inspires you to help imagine the futures that you envision for them.
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be immersed in this amazing experience with all of you. Thank you. You know, I have a good friend who is he's a medical doctor, and he insists that there's a gene that remains dormant in all of us until we become grandparents. And then that gene turns on, right? And once it turns on, watch out, world, right? And so clearly, when my grandson was born, that gene that enables me to communicate without words, it communicated with him the first time I held him. And he looked at me and he said, listen, I'm not a baby. And I said, got it. So we've had this amazing, special relationship from the very beginning, where I understand that he embodies the knowledge and the wisdom of our ancestors. And it is my responsibility to help make the world ready for the power and the beauty that his little body and soul and mind brings into the world. So he says to me sometimes, Nana, why are you so protective? And I go, well, I love you. And he says, okay. Okay. That's my story.
Mahalo.
That's wonderful.
Mahalo. I love that. Kekuhi, we'd like to ask you if you could share a story of your vision of the futures, and particularly if you could please share a story about an experience or moment in time in your relationship with Aina that has or sort of shaped that vision that you have for your grandchildren.
Yeah. Okay, mahalo. Just wanted to aloha my friends out there, some of my companions on the path on this movement of vibrating with honua. Some of my learners are here too. Aloha hia hia kako. Okay, I have a good one.
Oh no.
You hold on to it, hold on. So, I was only 8 years old and it only needed to happen once. And, but we frequented our grandmother's house during the summer. So it was all of the grandchildren. And of course, my character is such that I assumed that just meant me and everybody else was kind of extra along the journey. It's like, oh, you can come too. It's okay, come. Yeah, it's just how I am. And so my grandmother lived right on Kamakani Avenue, and my cousin Kuʻu still lives there with his family. And Kamakani Avenue, if you know how to get Hilo, and then how to get down to Richardson's and Leleʻiwi to the beach areas. Okay. So right across the beach, my grandmother, by the way, was one of the first homesteaders in that space there. And so right across the street was the palekai, the breakwater. And as that was our regular playground, was at the breakwater. And every summer, my grandmother would, we didn't know we were in ritual training, but there we were. And it was still dark out, and so we don't know what time it was. And she would come and whisper at us, "Psst, wake up, tired sleep, wake up. You got tired sleep, hui, wake up, wake up." And so we rolled out of our covers, and the room always smelled of mosquito punk, and we were still all bitten anyway. You know, nobody ever closed the screens. And she woke us up, and grandchildren like to ask, "Where are you going?" And we never learned our lesson because we continued to ask, "Where are we going?" And there was no answer. And our job was to follow her out the door. And her her sleepwear and her daywear were, she only wore muumuus. She was, if you looked at her from far, she just looked like a square. Same size all around. She wasn't too tall, you know, but she's squishy and she smelled like sweat and baby powder, if you can imagine that. And we followed her out the door, and we didn't have any lanterns or kukui helepo or anything like that. And we walked across the street, and we got to the place where we could smell the spray, the sea spray, and we could feel the ehukai, or this kind of like today, where you could actually see the sea spray in the air. and walk out to the kaheka, or the little tide pools, and she would tell us to be quiet. And then she would talk to the ocean. And then she would ask the ocean in Hawaiʻi, she would ask the ocean for, she was thankful for the day. Here she is. This is her space. And these are her grandchildren. Take care of them. And then she talked to the whale people. And so it must have been late. Now that I'm thinking of it, was actually should have been early summerish because the whale people are gone by then. So maybe it was just at that time. Anyway, she's talking to all the people. And the moment she opened her mouth, we knew that that was the connection. Mm-hmm. We knew that was our connection. We had no question that we know how to talk to ocean. And we had no question that my grandmother was talking to fish. It wasn't even strange for us to think about. And it was in that moment that as a grandchild that I knew that I was that person at the same time, standing on the water's edge, talking to the ocean and the fish out in the ocean. And that's all it takes really for an 8-year-old. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mahalo.
Beautiful. Mahalo. Dr. Christopher, I'm wondering if there, what a beautiful story that you shared, and I'm really thinking too about, even just the moment of like, just looking back and thinking like being held in my own grandmother's arms. Obviously, I don't remember that moment, but just thinking about how just the interconnections of like feeling that and just knowing like just that inherent connection that you have. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about, how that kind of experience really helped shape sort of the futures that you've kind of been thinking about.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for that beautiful story. All of my life, and I think part of what brought about this absolute determination, right, was the birth of my firstborn child, actually. Her name was Intianu, and Intianu means noble spirit. And she only stayed in her physical body with us for about 3 months. She passed on from a congenital heart defect. Mm-hmm. And there was something about that love and that loss in such a short period of time that just directed my life forever after that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know then that there was a thing called infant mortality disparities, right, for people of color. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that the medical system denied care. I wasn't aware of any of those realities, but she introduced me to that reality in her brief time. Yeah. And as a result, I dedicated my life to helping the world change so that other families didn't have to suffer that kind of loss needlessly. And so this idea of love for children and creating a world that embraces all children because there is this common understanding of our interconnected, sacred interdependence. Mm-hmm. I learned maybe 15 years after the loss of my daughter that the surgery that might have saved her life had been invented at least 20 years before she was born. Mm. And it had been invented by an African-American man. Mm. And so, this idea that we allow these superficial manifestations of our grace and our goodness, be it the pigment of our skin or the texture of our hair, or our culture that we're given the gift of having, we allow those dynamics to dictate the quality of opportunity for life that we have, it's just an absurd stop along our journey of evolution, I believe, as a human species. And so the future is one in which we've outgrown those, not even, that's insulting to say they're infantile, but those immature ways of being and thinking. And I know that we're on that path to creating that future that honors the true humanity that we all bring and are connected to and with, in our life. So it's a long answer, but I hope it helps.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, I'm like taking all of this in and just seeing the beauty and the importance of thinking about the ways of relationality and just thinking about, like future generations, but also just us living in this moment right now. I'm just thinking about all the things, and I'm like so tempted to just like write all of this down on my paper right now. I'm a writer, so I like just like write everything down, but I'm just, really taking that all in. So thank you to the both of you for sharing such beautiful stories. Kekuhi, how is this making you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna jump in because hearing both of their stories, I'm like, a part of me is remembering my own childhood and my own rearing with my two grandmothers. But aside of that, I see my mother getting out of the car and using the thing that the doctors use. They put in their ear and they look for the heartbeat. Getting out of the car and going to a tree that she sees on the side of the road, and like putting it in, and then listening to the heartbeat of the tree. And so I can't stop thinking of that. It's just pull over, go. Where's my tool? But yeah, so that's where my mind is right now, but also thinking about the heartbeat of understanding naturally that there's heartbeats and that there's water flows and that there's systems of health in forests and trees and nature. And that's really where we saw your work kind of touch each other and connected. Because on paper, it seems like you guys do things in totally different sectors. It's just amazing how much you guys do. But when you guys are starting to talk, we see that you guys are connected because you guys focus your work on holistic health, on connecting people to people and people to nature as well. And so that's kind of where my question comes in. Dr. Christopher, with your work going from changing policy to running the circles that you do and just everything that your world encompasses, and Kekuhi mother with your work in and being a Kumu Hula or being a teacher of Hula and teaching life ways of how you live on an island. How do you guys see your work affecting learners or students or just colleagues? And how do you see that affecting their behavior towards one another, towards nature?
That was inspiring.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Right.
You guys are inspiring.
Beautiful.
Okay. Huh?
Yeah. No, I got this. Okay. Cliff Notes version. How do you guys see the work that you're doing right now and that you have done in the last few decades? How do you see that affecting your learners, your students, your colleagues? What have you done to affect people's behavior towards one another and towards nature especially?
Yeah, okay.
Mahalo.
Shall I go first? Okay. Yeah. So when you register in one of my programs, I hand out stethoscopes. So we can all run to trees and listen to them. The work, much like Dr. Christopher's work, is noticing and being painfully aware that everyone around you is your teacher and is ready to teach you something about yourself, myself. So, and this might sound frivolous, but I mean it very seriously. So the vilivili tree on the side of the road in Kohala is the very one who thought she was under attack, but she wasn't. It was just me approaching her and wanting to listen. She taught me something that day. We were having a beautiful breakfast this morning at the How tree. Ooh, so good. Their avocado toast, you guys. Yeah. And there are these 3 gigantor how trees sitting there. And we were done with our breakfast, and we had a wonderful conversation about who they were and who we are as grandparents, and that connective tissue between us, and who how is, and how helps us, the female bodies, and who how mea is, and there's wonderful, and why are we even sitting under this tree? Oh my goodness, the connections. And at the end of our meal, went and said aloha to them, like intentionally. Like, whoa, I just learned a whole bunch of things about myself and my new friends. And more importantly, why we're in this space right now. Why you and come over here right now. Why we chose the how tree in my world of connectivity, like Punihei was saying, the connections don't only appear because we see the connective tissue. The connections are all over, which means everyone is your teacher. Even the Asian Karen. Watch it. Because she's gonna teach you. She's gonna teach you. And you know what? We were in the car, I was with my Uber driver. And he was this wonderful Japanese local guy, driving me back. And he goes, whoa, there's all this fluttery activity in the car in front of us. And there was this woman, little Asian woman now, local lady, got out of her car, did all of this thing out there on the road, and he was like, oh my gosh, that's like my mom. And he's like, she's the Asian, my mom is the Asian Karen. I'm not pointing, I'm not being that way. What I'm being is, that was like my teacher in the moment. The Uber driver, the lady who got out of her car, and in that moment, you cannot be anything else inside but receive the message. That was a great message. And it came across so beautifully from the mouth of the Uber driver. To him, that was his mother. I learned something about him through his mother who was on the street. Amazing. I think I'm getting way away from the question right now. Happens all the time, you guys.
That's exactly the answer.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's exactly the answer.
That's what it
was.
was.
So what have I learned from everybody? It's a matter of being so aware of where you are and who you're with. And not in a proper etiquette aware, That's a different kind of awareness. But being so aware of all of the empty spaces around you and knowing that in any moment, your teacher going to show up in front of you. And if you're pissed off and you get super mad at that person, then you better check yourself. That's the message from my learners. That's my message every time. If I'm wondering, why they're not getting it? Why they're not getting it? Then I better check myself. You know? So that's the most wonderful palette that I get to live in this space. Yeah. Something like that? Yeah.
That was perfect. I think so.
Yeah. I saw all the heads go down when I said the whole, yeah. But, okay. I'm Pau now.
Yeah. You know, it's such a powerful question. I think the greatest gift is not knowing how the work is affecting people.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's a continuous surprise.
Oh my God.
And it's a continuous moment of, oh, this is amazing. You know, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell stories that have been shared with me, but because the gift of the work came through me and not from me, I just get out of the way, you know, and experience the awe of the growth of it, right? I do know that when it's working well, people feel loved, you know? People feel a sense of belonging and affirmation and love that they hadn't experienced before. I remember one workshop, a woman from South Africa, and she had immigrated to America, and she'd lived there for many years, and she developed her own life's work as a coach. She was white South African, you know, and she, after this experience, she said it was the first time in her life that she didn't have to be ashamed, you know, of being a white South African. She knew that it was her journey, and she was totally embraced and accepted as who she is. And she could fully accept who she is, you know. And even as I tell the story, I get goosebumps remembering her moment, right? And so I think that that is a tremendous gift. But I would also say, I learned this in my 20s, which was a little while ago, that we always teach what we need to learn, right? And so, you know, my mantra in life is love and connection, and I'm one of the most isolated, don't want to be bothered with people on the planet. I am so okay with the period of isolation that came with COVID. I haven't told this to anybody but you all. But,
They won't tell.
okay. But seriously, so I share that only partially jokingly. There is a part of me that says, I'm still learning how to experience and be connected in the ways that the work is demanding for the connection, you know? And so I agree with you. Every day is an opportunity for us to grow and to learn and to have the grace of being vehicles through which the learning passes through us, I believe, but not from us.
I love that distinction. Through us, not from us.
Yeah. Wow. I hear the word medium a lot when it comes to being in ceremony, because you're you try to be the medium of what comes up, or maybe you are the medium of what you're calling in. And so it's really nice to hear that in this space and understanding that maybe for me personally, my role here isn't necessarily to create something, but to be the vehicle of something. And so just to be, I guess, open to receive whatever that is. So thank you. Yeah, Kamakani, please help.
Wow, I'm seriously just like really just thinking about the ways, I just think a lot about like how we tell stories. And I think that both of you really highlight the ways of like looking towards like one, living in this moment and recognizing the human and non-human things that happen in this moment of like who's around us, all of the things, and actually thinking about how we be responsive to those things, and how the connection really comes with honestly just thinking and recognizing that not just the human people that are around us, but also everything from the ocean. And then that sort of medium thing that you're talking about kind of like makes me think how, you know, when we feel like this earth and the ocean beneath us and feeling the ways that flows through our bodies and actually like shapes like what comes out of our mouths, like, and the importance of actually recognizing like what are the like, and thinking intentionally about the things that are coming out of our mouths, like the ways that what words we breathe life to when we open our mouths, how we see people's humanity and all of the things, just thinking about all those relationalities and connections that really like are responsive to the things that flow through us, and then what comes out of us too, in the ways that we tell stories, in the way that we experience the world, that we think about as we look towards our past, living in this moment and like in those futures of all of those things, and how it's just all like really connected, and these ways of thinking about how we are really aware of, like you said, like of the things around us, and also like how when we're in different spaces of like the different elements and things around us that shape how we show up, our intentionality behind like how we show up. What are we gonna do tomorrow to show up, and all of those things, you know? I think a lot about that, and I think that's a beautiful, really segue to kind of thinking, you know, we've talked about what those visions of those futures are. We've talked about things that require shifts in consciousness and behaviors, being aware of things. The question is too, where do we go from here, right? And for folks in the audience, and you know, it might be, you know, in our families, in our homes, in our schools, in our communities, there's a question of, you know, I'm wondering what are some things that we can do tomorrow to really think about, you know, these ideas of seeing not just like our common humanity and all of the ways that we think about those futures, and being aware and listening to the things around us and flow through us. You know, I'm wondering, and I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, what are next steps in order to be able to dream and imagine those futures? We do have about 10 minutes left, so if yeah, it was fast, huh? Yeah, I know.
We have kind of a large portion of time for questions and answers, so that's where we're going next.
Exactly.
Yep.
So in about a few minutes, yeah, what are some things that come to your mind in terms of next steps in thinking about how do we dream and imagine those futures? What can us as everyday people do when we leave here today? And how do we like also like take care of ourselves in that process as well?
It's your turn.
Okay, you can just tap me when I need to get into the next lane. Oh, let it go. My daughter's telling me, let it go. Yes. Okay. Next steps. I envision a world where my grandchildren's grandchildren can experience their grandmothers talking to whales and fishes. And envision a world where my 6-year-old granddaughter can continue her verbal relationship and her spiritual relationship to her lychee tree. She confronted her grandfather because he went pruned the tree. She confronted him as if that was the worst thing that she had experienced in her 6-year-old life. Was her grandfather pruning the lychee tree, and she was livid. I experienced a world where she can continue, she and her younger sister and younger brother can continue to talk to lychee trees and protect lychee trees without concern about whether the lychee tree is an indigenous tree or an endemic tree, a native tree, an introduced tree. She has a relationship with that tree. Relationship is deep. It's 6 years old deep. 6 human years old. She's an old soul like your grandchild. Imagine a world where she can pray in any denomination and non-denomination that she feels like. She knows about Mary and Jesus and loved their story. None of us, however, are Christians. She prays to the clouds and the Pele and all of her earth ancestors to come and protect her and come out of the earth where she can see their beauty and she can dance hula. She asked me to take her to them so she can dance hula, because that's why she dances. She forces the rest of us to come and kneel on our knees and put our palms together and pray to her Buddha statue. She has a statue of the Bodhisattva, one of them. She has a dragon icon, and she also has a Jesus-sama. None of us are Buddhists or Shinto. And we didn't teach her that. She came like that. She came like that.
Oh, yeah.
She now lectures us about chi. And how chi controls my sore muscles, and how chi makes the waves go big, and how chi makes the rain fall, and how we should all mind our chi. That is my vision for the world. And what I do right now in this moment is sit there and listen to her stories and talk about chi and pray with her people whenever she asks me to kneel down and pray. And look at the Bible stories in the Bible, because those are wonderful people that she wants to have a relationship with. And pray to the Pele and all of the people in the ocean that they might continue giving her a healthy home. That's the only vision I see right now. And what we're taught in the stories and through hula and through ritual and chant and through our practice of kuahu is that if I can do that with her in this moment today, then that's being done all over the world, in every moment, in every family. And that's my big, that's like that. oh, it makes me want to kick a tire.
You know,
Beautiful.
beautiful.
That's great.
Mahalo.
Your story reminds me of a story my daughter shared with me. They went to Indonesia last year.
Wow.
It was a big 7-day wedding celebration, and they took, my grandson, who at the time was 4, and I've never been to Indonesia, but all of these temples and goddesses and gods, and so he wanted to go into the places that were sacred, and my daughter would say, Riaz, you have to believe in those gods in order to go, right? And he looked at her and said, I believe. So this sense of what they come in with, and their respect and reverence is amazing. I would say that next steps, what do we do? And I'm saying this every time I'm asked this between now and November. We vote. And if the trees could vote, we'd have them vote too, right? But seriously, there is this thing called governance, and there are different ways of approaching it, right? And I feel that our grandchildren's best interest is best served in a government that allows their voices to be heard. And so one of our very important steps is to convey to everyone the privilege we have of having a voice and using that voice to maintain that opportunity. So that's number one in these times, right? The other thing I think we have to know is that what social media and mass media might feed us as reality, it's not reality.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's very important to listen to the heartbeat of ourselves, the heartbeat of our communities, and not let something else be drummed into our consciousness as reality.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an important step, and it's always important to listen so carefully, right? So that we're not just hearing what someone wants us to hear, but we're also hearing what they don't want us to hear. So that would be another important step. The other important thing as a holistic doctor for me is when we use the term healing, we're not coming from a deficit place, right? We're not coming from the traditional view of pathology. We're understanding that that's an innate part of life, right? Nature in and of itself is always renewing and healing and regenerating. And so when we talk about racial healing, when we talking about the language of regeneration and renewal, it's not from a deficit perspective. It's out of reverence and regard for the grace with which we're endowed. Yes. Right? And so I think one of the most important things for us to do is to be reminded of that every day. That within us, the ability to heal, it is innate, it is grace, it is what we are about. And in that truth lies our connection to all of life. So that's
Oh, yeah. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Wow.
And my next steps is to learn how to be as graceful and articulate as you two are, because that was
Right.
amazing. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think for me, just one thing that I've just been thinking about so much in our conversation, just so much conversation of using the word heartbeat. And I'm thinking about like, just trying to imagine like the heartbeat of like our descendants and the people who will come after us, but also thinking about the heartbeat of the ocean as it resides right now, as it flows throughout the world. Thinking about the ocean as a site of like connection and beauty, as ways of thinking about how we navigate this world. And I don't know, I'm just thinking about that one word right now. Heartbeat is like becoming like just flooded in my head, because I'm just thinking, you know, if we're thinking about the heartbeat of like ourselves in this moment, the heartbeat of this aina below us, the heartbeat of the ocean, and as well as the heartbeat of our ancestors that have come before us. Thinking and just listening to the heartbeat, but also thinking about how that heartbeat continues to be passed on in ways that we build connections with each other. What does it mean for me to think of, like, to pause for a moment and listen to the heartbeat of the people in this audience, but also just like really pausing and listening and thinking about that and our connections and relationalities to this place. And so I just want to mahalo to the both of you for really like sharing the beauty of our connections, and really what about just thinking about our human and non-human relations and connections that allow us to really remember our pasts, being truly present, and just as we envision our futures, thinking about all the sounds, all the smells, and just for helping to paint that picture. Because I think you both have beautifully weaved like the oceans that we hope we can speak to in the future, all of those things. So thank you to the both of you for that beautiful mana'o.
Makani.
Yes. The future's in good hands. Thank you very much.
Kekuhi? Kekuhi?
This one.
Oh,
How's your heart?
yeah, still there.
It's coming up for you.
Yeah. You know, I haven't been able to share this type of space with my mother before. And so I'm first thinking of that. And I'm also thinking about how familiar Dr. Christopher is to me, although this is the first time we've met. I'm thinking about how much work I want to be able to do within the next few decades, and how much time that is in relationship to the time of this island and my grandchildren and their grandchildren. And so just setting my intention in front of a bunch of people that I will continue to do the work that I need to do with this type of So mahalo. Mahalo nui.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So good, Yakavehi.
So good.
We're
So
so
good.
proud of them. They did a good job. I think you want to talk to the four of them? Do you really want to be in conversation? Yes? LaJoya said yes. If LaJoya says yes, then we do that. So we want to make sure we have time for you to be in conversation with the four of them. And I think, what do you think, Kawei, deep listeners?
Yeah.
So part of our practice in our circle work that Dr. Christopher has taught us, is this touchstone, this agreement that we have in our circle work of honoring deep listening. And sometimes when you're in circle, those deep listeners they're always so important, because we are receiving the stories that other people are sharing. And sometimes they're really quiet because they're so intentional about holding that space. So I think, what do you think? Yeah,
I would love to hear from some of our deep listeners. Stuff like the Oli workshop that happened outside are really hard for me. I'm a deep listener. So it takes a little while sometimes. But I've been privileged to be in these wonderful spaces where I get the moment to do that. So first off, thank you to all of you. That was a beautiful conversation. For me personally, the heartbeat was sticking with me too. So as soon as you said that, I was like, yup. And I'm just so blessed to be surrounded by so many teachers. I feel like I have so much to learn. So mahalo for allowing us to just bear witness and be here to help hold space. Does anybody in the audience have a question for these lovely humans that we have here today?
And in particular, I think we'll take that question first. But before that, we want to, again, so for those of you who are deep listeners, who are really thinking about wanting to ask a question but don't usually, we really want to call you forward. Because I'm also the same way, or I used to be that way. I'm a little positive now. Grad school does that to you. But like when you're driving home and you're like, I just really wish I was like on the edge of my seat. So we really want to invite those folks forward, you folks forward. And also, I think we really want to invite young people to be in conversation. I'm not going to give that an age limit. But we do really want to invite those of you who consider yourselves, young in whatever way. Those of you who, are the parents of the grandbabies that we're talking about. Those of you who, are right there and will be raising this next generation. So go ahead and maybe we can have that first question. And let us know what's your name and where you're from. Or one place that you were from. One place you call home.
Aloha. I'm one of those really shy listeners. Aloha mai o nala koinoa.
Aloha nala.
Aloha. So I wanted to talk first so I can get it. But my question is for Kumu, Kekuhi. Yeah. So it really is burning inside of me what you said about how your grandmother took you out to talk to the fish and to the whales. Over this holiday break, I had a Hanai relative come, and he met his mother for the first time. This is a Kanaka from the continent that had never been immersed in his culture as an adult. He came, and I'm a Hawaiian Studies major, so I was like guiding them in this very healing ohana situation and a li'i line. And so his mom was meeting her. I was also meeting her, so now they're my ohana. And she was telling us a story about how you took her Hanai children out to speak to the turtles. In my ohana, we have grandmother stories too, but our grandmothers, that story doesn't exist. Our grandmother stories are more along the lines of like the Kumu Lipo and how we have other ocean stories, but not talking to fish. And so I was wondering, is that like a genealogical tie? As a Hawaiian Studies major, I'm just wondering, is that something that should be common in our maternal lines? Is that something that we should try to cultivate, or is that more like a genealogy that we should just be admiring and not claiming? Mahalo.
The practice of speaking to the different kinds of people.
Oh, okay. How much time we get? Okay. I think if we're of the mindset or of that our very organs and our bones are made up of what this landscape is made up of, then we ought to be talking to every single soil that we step into. In terms of the Hawaii approach, I'm not sure if you're asking about the human to the more than human approach, or are you speaking to a particular protocol that belongs to a particular family? They're two different questions. But I would say if you're at, go to the ocean. If it's an ocean entity now, yeah, because just because your grandmother's person was a honu, or your new family, Auli'i, Ryan's person is a honu, doesn't necessarily mean that your person is a honu. And doesn't necessarily mean that it's all honu, or it's a specific species of honu. Like the shark people, okay? So there are different genealogies of shark people whose job it is around all of the islands to take care of their human communities around all of the islands. They're not the same species of shark. You know, some are white tip, some are tigers, some are hammers, some are black tip, some are nurse sharks. They're all different people, you know? But they all, their genealogy, what has been observed is that their community of human people, you know, just like your dogs have relationships with you, yeah, that's my human, yeah, same thing, like that. So I would see what are you attuned to? Who do you have an affinity with? Like, I would go around, not really loud though, yeah? But I would go around and like talk to all the people. And talk to them doesn't necessarily mean this kind of noise is coming out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one kind of talk. Mm-hmm. But like Kamakani was saying, heart-to-heart talks, that's the hugest magnetic relationship that you can probably convey from one entity to another entity. Mm-hmm. Have that conversation. It may not be people in the ocean at all. It may be some ocean manu friend, or it may be a rock person, or it may be like a forest bird, or some special poetry on that particular ridge in this particular. So, like, do your in-search. Because sometimes the research is helpful. Okay, you can get to a certain point, but then you got to answer these kind of questions. That's not in any research. That's when you have to start to attune. And like Dr. Christopher was talking about, use that intuition of yours. Yeah, that's the best tool.
Dr. Christopher, do you want to respond to that? What's resonating for you?
Well, I think it's been perfectly responded to. I'm not stepping up to that. I'm from Washington, D.C. So, but thank you, Ma.
LaJoya, did you have a question? Because I feel like you might. We're going to get you a mic. Hope's coming down. Come over here so she can meet you.
I love it.
This question is for Dr. Christopher. So, as you know, this is a difficult time in higher education for Black women. Dr. Antoinette Canada Bailey just passed away after severe harassment and bullying at Lincoln University at the hand of her employer. And so here I am on the cusp of my academic career, also wanting to be engaged in this work of supporting Black women, supporting Black students, and really students all over, but I'm thinking about Black and Indigenous women who are often at the front lines of this truth and racial justice work. But it's laborious, and it's at times thankless work and unsupported work institutionally. So what advice would you give someone like myself who is at times hopeful, but also fearful. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Thank you.
I'm gonna feel but fearful for how to do this work and how to go forward, even with that fear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take this hug that I'm giving you, this virtual hug first. Thank you so much for caring so deeply and being so brave in bringing such a complete question.
Yeah.
My heart and condolences for the loss that you shared with us. I would say something that I said before, which is not to believe all that they would have us believe about resistance to this work. Many institutions are actually finding ways to expand this work in this moment. One sort of hidden opportunity that is within the very backward Supreme Court decision about affirmative action, right? One hidden opportunity in that very language is the emphasis on lived experience. If you think about it, because of the layers of ideology of racial hierarchy, if we truly lift up the lived experiences across this country, as we do in the circles, we are connecting and moving beyond the barrier that they tried to put in place. So what we have to do is look for the opportunity within the moment to continue to move forward. We just did a major poll at our organization, and we found that 8 out of 10, this is a nationally representative sample, 8 out of 10 want racial history to be taught in our nation's schools. Not that small faction that is politically motivated and driving repeated sample rules, but 8 out of 10 of the population know that this work is vital to the viability of our democracy and to our to being able to see one another through our shared humanity. And so every movement, if you look back historically, if you talked about the strong leaders who brought Native Hawaiian language and culture immersion experiences, they fought, and they did not fight alone. We never fight alone. Our ancestors stand with us in the fight, and more so effectively when we acknowledge that. But also, every progress, every major milestone that we achieve, like all of this work, it can be met with fear and resistance. But love is so much more powerful than fear. And so I, for one, made a decision that we have to create a narrative that is more grounded in truth, and we also have to keep amplifying that narrative because the paid media is not going to do it, right? The expansion of this work on this campus and in this community, Pūnihei, your leadership and the leadership of all of the people who stand with you, incarnate and otherwise, right? It's a testament to an idea whose time has come. Humanity is evolving, and we have to evolve around this backward barrier, so to speak. And so I just know that the work is being done, and it's being done beautifully, and everyone that's called to do it can experience the gift and the joy of affirmation that you're part of the expression of an idea whose time has come to be expressed. We are one human family, and we are connected to all the other families of people that you speak so beautifully about. And our love and our knowing that connection is key to the survival of the entire planet. So don't be sidetracked by the noisemakers. Hang in there and do the work.
Many of you, if not all of you, were at a workshop just before this with Makanalani and Kealiʻikanakaʻoleohaililani. And so if you learned Velina Mānoa, or if you didn't and would like to just stand anyway, e kumai kako.
Should we stand? Velina Mānoa pa. Velina Mānoa.
Dr. Christopher, thank you so much for braving the weather from the East Coast to make it here. Kumu Kekuhi, mahalo for braving the airlines from Hawaiʻi over here. Kamakani and baby Kekuhi, mahalo to the both of you for braving this amazing space.